You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ12. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ12 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome to the Law Firm Practice Management Advice Podcast.
The fundamentals of business.
Join Kirk Stange of Stange Law Firm as he discusses helpful strategies, tools, and insights to grow and manage a legal practice.
Good ideas are simple.
From improving client relationships to managing your team and scaling your practice, this podcast offers practical advice for navigating the challenges of law firm management.
Shall we proceed?
Now, here's your host, Kirk Stange.
Welcome to Law Firm Practice Management Advice. The episode today is titled, Do Law Firm Radio Ads Make Sense? And this episode is based on an article on my blog, lawfirmpracticemanagementadvice.com, dated November 22nd, 2024. And the title of the article is, Are Radio Ads Still Worth It? So as a follow-up to the episode today, go on over to my blog and read the article on this same topic for more information. But let's go ahead and jump on in. Many law firms advertise on the radio. Radio advertising obviously has been around a long time, and lots of law firms will spend quite a bit of money advertising on FM radio, maybe on AM radio, and they've been doing this for a long time. And so the question is this still worth it? Does this make sense for law firms? And what I'm going to do today is go through some of the cons of radio advertising. I'll go through some of the pros of radio advertising, and then I'll try to kind of dissect in a general sense whether advertising on the radio makes sense or whether it doesn't make sense for law firms. And obviously, I think any law firm owner or manager is going to need to weigh this themselves and maybe come up with their own list of pros and cons. But let me go through some of the cons first. One of the big cons of radio advertising is that law firms typically have to sign a contract. So it could be a 3-month contract, 6-month contract, maybe a more extended contract like a year or something like that. And once the law firm signs that, they are committed to the radio advertising. There's no getting out of it. So if a law firm is getting results from the radio ads, and maybe they're happy with this contract that they signed, and they think this arrangement is a great idea. But for law firms who do radio advertising and they're not seeing the results, the contract can be a downside because there's really no getting out of the radio advertising once that contract has been signed. All right, con number 2 would be this, which is lots of individuals are not listening to FM or AM radio any longer. Many listen to Sirius XM, Apple Radio, Spotify, Pandora. Maybe they listen to podcasts and they do streaming. And so this is a big downside. Back in the day, FM and AM radio was it. And this was the only thing people listened to. But more and more individuals are now listening through other options, okay? The Sirius XM, the streaming, the podcast, and these kinds of things. So it could be very hard to target radio ads to individuals because you just don't know what your potential clients may be listening to, all right? And so this is becoming an increasing problem with radio advertising that many individuals aren't on FM or AM radio anymore, all right? A third con of radio advertising is that it's very expensive. whether it's a 30-second spot, whether it's a 60-second spot. If you've ever looked at an advertising contract or you're thinking you may in the future, when you look at the cost per spot, it isn't cheap. Okay? And so there can be other ways to advertise that may be less expensive, right? And so the question is the expense worth it? Okay? But radio advertising, very expensive, not cheap. And so these would be 3 cons off the top of my head that I would kind of put out there to anybody considering radio advertising. All right? Let's go through the pros. If a law firm is looking to brand, if they're looking to be well known in the community and they want to just be a common name like that law firm that everybody knows, then radio advertising could make sense. But the law firm has to have very deep pockets. They've got to have the ability to really blitz a community. So typically being on 1 or 2 radio stations, that might not be good enough. And so, law firms who want to just be commonly known in the community, they want to almost achieve celebrity status in the community. They've got to have a lot of money in deep pockets. But if a law firm has it and they've got the money to burn and they want a brand, then radio advertising can't achieve it if the law firm has enough money. All right, a second pro of radio advertising is that it still does impress the traditional radio consumers. So lots of law firms will do radio ads. Oftentimes it's the personal injury firms, but look, there's other law firms that do it too, and they run these ads, and maybe there's some bragging in these ads. Maybe the law firm has been voted the best law firm in X, Y, and Z magazine or newspaper, or they've received X, Y, or Z award, and the law firm is really kind of putting out that award in the community through the radio ads. Then in terms of those who really cling to the AM and the FM radios, the folks who are much more traditional in terms of what they listen to, it can impress some people. And then individuals can think, wow, this law firm's got the money to spend on these radio ads. They must be very good. And I think there's some truth to that, where folks hear radio ads over and over and over again. And it's not just with law firms. It could be other companies advertising in the community. There's traditional folks who will hear these ads and think, wow, that firm must be good. They've got the money to spend on the radio advertising. So look, there can be an impressive element to radio advertising that does have some value. And so then just weighing in a general sense, is radio advertising worth it? Again, every law firm is going to have to weigh this for themselves. They're going to have to weigh the pros and the cons. They're going to have to look at their budget. They're going to have to look at the types of clients they're looking to get. But in a general sense, for law firms that have deep pockets, they've got the money to really blitz a community through multiple stations on FM and AM radio, it could really get the word out about the law firm. But to do this, a law firm's really got to have deep pockets. Advertising on 1 station, on 2 stations, advertising on, 1 or 2 specific shows, let's say on a radio station, that's not going to have the branding impact that it would have if the radio ads were blitzed on many radio stations and the ads are being run over and over and over again, okay? And so for law firms who got the money, they can just run their ads all over the place, and they've got the money to do it. I guess it could be worth it. On the other hand, if a law firm's looking to get younger, more technologically savvy consumers who aren't spending that much time listening to traditional radio, then maybe it isn't worth it. Again, lots of individuals are listening to podcasts. They're listening to Sirius XM. They listen to radio that's streaming radio, like I said, the Spotify, the Pandora, stuff like this, the Apple radio. And so if a law firm is trying to reach these kinds of folks, the radio advertising probably isn't going to make sense, because this isn't going to reach the kind of people the law firm's looking to get. So really weighing, do we want the traditional radio consumers, or do we want the technologically savvy younger folks who are listening to the newer options of radio? I think that's important for a lot of law firms to really think about, consider, and contemplate. All right? Law firms also have to think about, what are they trying to do? All right, so there's branding and then there's getting clients, okay? So if a law firm is looking to brand, then the radio can make sense. But some law firms might not have the interest in branding, right? They don't want to achieve celebrity status of the community in terms of their law firm. They just want specific clients. They need new clients. coming into the law firm. And so law firms that are looking to get clients, not necessarily looking to brand, then there are other options out there that might make more sense than the radio. Take advertising on Google, Bing, social media, through a web page, these kinds of things. For a lot of law firms, this might be the place to go and the path to go, because it can be expensive. I'm not going to tell you it's not expensive, but maybe it's less expensive. Also, unless a company is using, or a law firm is using a marketing company, I should say, it can be easier to pause the ads if they're not working. Stop them. Maybe tweak the ads, adjust the ads. Whereas radio ads, once you've signed that contract, unless you can get the radio station to amend the contract's the contract. With the online advertising, this can be easier for a law firm to adjust, to increase if it's working, to stop if it isn't. And so there's typically not a long-term contract unless, again, the law firm has signed a contract with a marketing entity that's running these online ads, okay? If that's the case, then I guess there's no getting out of it. But some law firms do this themselves, and they don't sign contracts with marketing entities. And so, there can be more flexibility there, all right? So again, radio advertising, is it worth it? Again, this is going to be different for different law firms in terms of the budgets, the goals, in terms of what they're looking for, but I wanted to cover it today because lots of law firms are using the radio or thinking long and hard about advertising on the radio. So I thought this was a good topic to cover here today. Again, as a follow-up to the episode, going over to my blog, lawfirmpracticemanagementadvice.com. Read the article titled, Are Radio Ads Still Worth It? The date of the article is November 22nd, 2024. All right. Thanks for tuning in today. Stay tuned to our next episode coming up. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Law Firm Practice Management Advice Podcast with Kirk Stange. Kirk Stange is the president and founding partner of Stange Law Firm, a multi-state divorce and family law practice. For more insight on similar law firm management topics, visit his practice management advice blog at lawfirmpracticemanagementadvice.com.